Call him a pedophile Nazi in public. Then when he gets upset, you accused him of those things without evidence. Say, oh my God, I know, I just wanted to trigger you and hear you defend yourself. Relax, men are so sensitive. I think you're tiring yourself out arguing against dumb assholes. It's more productive for me to explain to my dog why he can't have 3 dinners. Today, I'm going to do something pretty unpopular and pretty risky. I'm going to argue and I'm going to show you that feminism has an extremely toxic underbelly that is just as bad as the men's rights movement and any element of the manosphere today. But before we get started, I want to make something crystal clear. I am not against feminism. I think feminists have fought and won some really critical and important human rights battles over the last century. And I absolutely don't want today's video to denigrate those battles, to take away from the pain and suffering that women have been through. That's not what today's video is about. And I need to say that because I'm about to get pretty heavy-handed and negative about certain elements of the feminist following. Now, my partner of over 2 years who I live with, she has 3 university degrees. She is a university professor. She has lived most of her adult life in academia. She is, of course, a woman. She is mixed race who identifies as black, who grew up in a country where both sexism and racism are prevalent. I have heard her stories and I've felt heartbroken by what she's had to go through that I, as a white man in a Western country, have not had to go through. And, unsurprisingly, she supports feminism and identifies as a feminist. But here's the kicker. She and I have both been through the comments, the information that I'm about to share with you here, and she agrees. There is a very toxic part of the feminist movement that is holding society back as a whole. And so that's what I'm going to share with you today. So what I did was I went to a subreddit called /AskFeminists. And I didn't cherry pick too hard. What I did was I simply went to the front page and only opened the first 20 threads that were available to me. That's as deeply as I dug to find what I'm about to show you today. So the first post that grabbed my interest, especially knowing the video I was going to make today, was titled, "Why is being a feminist so controversial for some men?" Now, I've got to give credit to the author here because I'm assuming it's a woman, but doesn't have to be. She says it in a good way, right? I don't understand why so many men in the comment sections like YouTube or Instagram complaining about feminists. Sure, one argument, I'm just jumping to the next paragraph, is that there are a lot of radical feminists who wish death upon all men. But this kind of behavior isn't exclusive to feminists, and those people aren't feminists, they're misandrists. Hell, if you swing in any direction on the political spectrum, or if you're religious, you're going to meet extremists. Feminism is the reason that women have the ability to vote. It's the reason why, okay, she goes on. I think this is a reasonable question for her to be asking, and she asks it in a very reasonable way. Here are the answers she gets. Well, I mean, they do lose a free servant, sex worker, incubator, childcare, therapist, social secretary when women start wanting liberation. That sounds like misandry. Basically, traditional women don't want to lose to a girl. They don't want to go for a job or scholarship or interim placement or other competitive placing and learn that a woman was smarter or more competitive than them. That sounds misandrist. It's a judgment about men. Someone else said, exactly. So much of society in general, and men in particular, gain from the abuse and use of women. It puts them in a position of not winning and admitting that they are wrong. Men are raised from birth that they are better than girls, and women at absolutely everything except the feminine roles, such as cooking and cleaning. They cannot fathom a world in which they are not superior to women. Misandry. Because they're insecure and clueless. Misandry. Because they lose the unearned right to control women and treat them as unpaid servants in every way. Misandry. They're morons. Misandry. Women fitting a traditional gender role box threatens their worldview. Rather than treating women as people, they dismiss anyone disagreeing with them as irrational against them or somehow manipulated. Okay, does this sound equanimous to you? Remember, I didn't have to cherry pick so hard. There are a lot more negative answers like these in the thread. Does this, if you were a man thinking about like feminism and what feminists really felt about men, you jumped into the /AskFeminists and this was what you saw. Do you think you would feel like these women had men's best interests at heart, or that they had positive feelings about men rather than negative feelings? No, I certainly wouldn't. Here's another thread that grabbed my attention. It said, the brainwashing never stops. So I'm not going to read the whole thread out, but it's basically a woman saying that she awoke, she had an awakening and realized that she was feminist, that she had been very much brainwashed to be misogynist, and now she's had an awakening, but now she's getting upset at how many times people disagree with her, and it's stressing her out that she constantly has to argue her case. Okay, so what are some of the comments here? I think you're tiring yourself out arguing against dumb assholes. It's more productive for me to explain to my dog why he can't have 3 dinners. Next comment. As Mark Twain once said, never argue with an idiot. They'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. Most of them are not even smart, just manipulative to the point of overwhelm, not to address the subject matter at hand. You can ignore them, downvote, and move on. Don't act like their opinion is of worth, because it really isn't. It's just boring. Recycled garbage, and they are sheep repeating it with confidence. Call him a pedophile Nazi in public. Then when he gets upset, you accused him of those things without evidence. Say, oh my God, I know, I just wanted to trigger you and hear you defend yourself. Relax, men are so sensitive. That sounds rude. Don't get tired of standing up. Make a joke about what they're saying and laugh in their faces. They hate that. They are pathetic and desperately want attention. Even if it's negative, it means a woman is talking to him. It's a control thing. They want to force you into an emotional state so he can degrade you once you get there. It's all intentional. The whole damn point is to exhaust us to the point that we give in and give up. So the most important thing we can do is keep resisting. Oh, but someone agreed to that, by the way. They said, I feel this too. They want to drain us out. And that scares me a lot, to be honest. The next comment, arguing and debating is fun for men like that. They enjoy draining a woman's energy and seeing her frustrated. I don't know where the hell some of this stuff comes from. I don't know where the theory comes from that men have gotten together and decided that let's just stress them out so much that they convert to our way of thinking. I have seen a lot of toxic stuff in the men's rights forums. It's something that I've argued about in a lot of videos. I've made no secret that I think there's a lot of toxicity in those environments. I have never once seen a single post saying, hey guys, let's get together and just argue with feminists so that they get frustrated and overwhelmed. Not once. I haven't seen that comment once. I've seen lots of toxic stuff, but never that. So that is entirely fictionally made up. Then I found another post. Now this post is an interesting one because I have never, ever heard of this before, but it got a lot of likes and it got a lot of comments. And the interesting thing here is you're going to see what it's about, but you're going to see that only less than 1% of the comments were disagreeing. All of the rest agreed with the initial problem. Here we go. The problem is the words male and female. Why all of a sudden everyone is using these words instead of women and men? Is it a way to exclude the trans community? Oh, Jesus Christ. It just doesn't sit right with me. It feels odd and dehumanizing somehow. Can someone please explain why? Okay, let's look at the comments. It feels odd and dehumanizing because it is odd and dehumanizing. It's how we refer to animals, female and male, when used appropriately, are adjectives that describe nouns, female athlete. It's especially strange when people use men and females in the same piece of writing. I rarely ever see that. That's an odd one. Someone else said, I hate it. Female is an adjective, not a noun. I'm a woman. The next person says, referring to women as female is a dehumanizing thing men have been doing for a long-ass time. Referring to men as male is a retaliatory, dehumanizing thing used to try to highlight this fact. I hate being called a female. I'm a woman, a human. Female can pertain to animals and even objects, which I am not. You can tell who respects women the least when they use the term females when referring to women. I don't often see the word males used for men, but it seems like everyone is using females for women. It's really gross to me. It almost reminds me of the Cramps album, Smell of Female. It reduces the individual to a characterization that is below their humanity. Someone says it is to exclude trans people. It is also to dehumanize mostly women, and it is a symptom of biological essentialism characteristic of fascism. That is so interesting because I would swear, when I read this, I think in my head, I would swear that it is really normal to say male or female in certain, especially in political contexts. I think because there is now a whole, the whole 2030 gender thing going on, we're trying to be specific about who we're talking to. But even then, it's used in the military, it's used by police, it's used by doctors, right? Patient is a female, 23, la, 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 la. That's a quite normal thing, and I feel like it's a normal enough thing to use in conversation. But I didn't want to just judge it based on hearsay, my own experience. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a little search on /AskFeminists myself, and I'm going to see whether they really do avoid calling themselves females and calling men males, or if they're just talking out their holes. Okay, so I did a search, and fully 1 in 3 of them use the term female and male in this way. Let's have a look. This is literally just from the first 20 posts. Okay, the first 20 still, I haven't moved. Okay, if you're a female, there's no winning if you're a female. Nah. I don't think that's the case for males. Huh. I went to a training at work and I was the only male. I was a guy who wrote it, at least. For drugs to pass FDA approval having shown on both male and female. Huh. People hear a term like feminism and assume it's about females. Huh. There's also a correlation between how close the number of female dead to male dead. Huh. I don't know whether or not most of the people who are commenting are male, female, or whoever they choose to identify. Huh. I mean, yeah, this is patriarchy. Part of it is the belief, whether conscious or not, that being male is the default state of humanity. Huh. So it can be seen, and I do see it so, as males always retain their parenthood, no matter the stage of life. Huh. Right. Cis, straight, male. Huh. Cis, straight, male. Huh. Black male, Asian male, white male, Jewish male. Oh, look, blonde female. Huh. Males are the default setting of this world. Irony is we all start out as female. Our name is patriarchy. So, you've been reading these posts that I've been putting up, and I'm pretty sure you can see there's a lot of toxic anti-male behavior there, right? This does not make men feel like they would like to be identified in the feminist movement, right? You can see why men are avoiding it. Surely you can see it by looking at those comments, right? And yet it's also true. If I look, it's not all negative. I go to Ask Feminists. There are a lot of thoughtful, interesting, intelligent, meaningful, real posts there. Posts that make me feel heartbroken. Posts that make me feel genuinely sad and caring for women. It's not like they're all madness in there, right? But the problem is that there is still a lot of toxicity, not the majority, but it's a very strong, very easy to spot minority, right? It jumps out at you, especially when you are the recipient of that negativity and that toxicity. It reminds me a lot of a certain question that came out involving men and bears. And remember, men said, but most men aren't rapists. And most women said, what? Yes, but there are enough, and the threshold is high enough that we are scared of men, and that's a problem, and that's why we choose the bear. That was the argument, basically. I'm shortening it just for the brevity of this. The point was that there was actually a valid emotional reason why women would choose bears, and why as a society we should pay attention to that. But why the hell can't people understand that the threshold of toxicity in feminism, in feminist groups, in feminist forums is high enough, right? It's easily crossed the threshold for men to feel this is not a place that represents me, this is not a place that gives a damn about me, this is not a place that will hear me, and this is not a place that will listen to me. And then you ask, why aren't men joining the feminist movement? Why is there so much negativity towards us? That is why. There's a threshold of toxicity. And yes, I know that feminists will argue, at least some will say, but wait up, we have been the victims of sexual violence, we've been the victims of regular violence, we've been the scales of fairness have been tilted against us for a long time, and we have suffered, and we are sick of it. Why should we have to be nice to men? Okay, my answer is this. It's not your job to be nice to men. You don't owe men anything. If you've been hurt by men, it's reasonable to be hurt. But if you want to be part of a political movement that is seeking to make the world better, and you're hiding under the umbrella of a movement that claims it wants the world to be better for both women and men, to be fairer for both genders, there is no place for hate and anger and resentment. There isn't. You can't fight from that place and expect to be heard. Especially when that anger and resentment and toxicity is being blasted at people who didn't cause the pain. That's what friends and social networks and therapists are for. Now, I know I say this and exactly the same thing happens in men's groups. I know that. I've already been vocal about that, right? You can't resolve an argument from that place. You can't do it in a relationship. If you're in a relationship and you're both feeling resentful and angry, you're not resolving squat, right? It's only when you start to be empathic with each other and open up and listen that things get better, right? It never resolves. In the same thing on a larger scale with more people, right? So it's reasonable for you to feel that way, but then don't shout it out under the umbrella of something that's supposed to support both men and women. So here's the thing that I'm arguing. Feminism has a toxic side. It's not the majority, but it's there. It is why more men don't feel safe to join. It is why more men feel like feminism is working against them and not with them. It's not falling out of the air. It's not because they're, oh, tragic male insecurities. It's real, and we can see it anytime that we look for it with any, strength at all. And the only way that a regular guy is going to be able to see that feminism is not all bad or is not mostly bad is if he gets deeply entrenched. I'm lucky if not just my field of work, but the friends that I've had over the years, because I've had some amazing friends who are feminist, right? Some amazing, highly educated, interesting people, men and women. And I've had amazing, hell, I live with one of them, right? And I regularly have amazing conversations about how do we make the world more fair for men and how do we make the world more fair for women. And together we have these amazing debates, and we don't always agree with each other. We absolutely don't. We agree we want the world to be better and more fair, but we have different ideas about how to make that happen. But we debate it respectfully. We go, okay, well, basically we're on the same side. We're just disagreeing on the strategy, right? And so we have a conversation, we disagree, we agree, we learn a little bit from each other, and we move on and we stay friends. But most guys don't have that opportunity to have those experiences. So all they get is the negativity and the toxicity, and you wonder why. So there are 3 outcomes that I'm hoping for from this video. One is I want both feminists and I want men's rights activists to realize that there is shit in their ranks and that shit stinks. They first need to realize that that exists, that that is a real problem. Why aren't people paying attention to men's rights activists? Because there's a whole bunch of toxic crap coming out of there, right? But it is the same thing, the kind of negativity I see towards men from feminists is what I see in the men's rights activists group, okay? And not all those people are idiots either. There are some really great guys with some really important things to say in those groups, just as there are great women with really important things to say in feminist groups. And once you recognize that, understand that it's there, I think both sides need to do some policing. Seriously, I've started quite a number of men's groups. Yes, I'm a dating coach, and I've started men's groups. And in every single men's group I've ever started, there's been a very strict policy of we're trying to be more successful, more confident human beings and better at dating, but there is no tolerance for talking shit about women, right? That's not what this group's about. That's not what it's for. And I've policed it. And I've policed it well enough that they police themselves now. I don't have to jump in and reprimand guys. Guys will reprimand each other and say, no, that's not what this group is. That person could go talk like that somewhere else, but that's not what we represent. That's not the voice who we are. And I think really MRA and feminists, that's what you guys need to do. The second thing that absolutely has to happen is you have got to stop assuming that the other side's shit, the other side's toxic stuff is all there is. I know that's human nature. I shouldn't be so annoyed by it, right? Because it is very human. If you learn that Peter kicked a dog, then everything about Peter must be bad, okay? But now we're not talking about an individual, we're talking about a group of individuals, right? It's a very human thing to create a stereotype based on a limited piece of information. So I get that feminists can read some of the stuff they say MRI is talking about, it's toxic, it's anti-women, it's misogynistic, it's not nice, and they go, well, all these guys are just bad. You need to understand that that's not true. You need to understand there's a lot more there. Men, the same thing with feminism. You need to recognize it's not just the toxic, and the toxic exists. You don't have to put up with the toxic. You really don't. But the people who really make decisions, the people who are publicly at large, have a responsibility to do that. If you're really a feminist and want change, if you're really a men's rights activist and want change, and you're high up on that chain, shut up for a second and start listening to the other side. Really, really. Stop seeing them as the toxic enemy and say, hey, what do we agree on? I'm not saying like hold hands and sing Kumbaya. I'm saying it's a critical part of making the world a better place. And we're only going to become more extremist and push each other away until that happens. Lastly, and perhaps for one of a less gendered idiom, gender rights is not meant to be a dick measuring contest. Both men and women have tried to create this argument about how men or women have it worse currently, it's worse in this situation. It's not about who has it worse. It's about if there are problems in our society, we have to fix them. And it's really This has been played out for too long. Feminists going, well, women have suffered for 100 years, so men's rights don't matter. I know not all feminists are saying that, but I hear that general sentiment a lot, and I hear it from men's rights activists too. The reality is, let's be honest here, everybody, life sucked. Going back, a couple of 100 years, life sucked. Human rights wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing for men or women. Body autonomy wasn't a thing for men or women. Women were baby machines and men were cannon fodder. And that is most of human history. It sucked. It wasn't nice. Back when we lived in tribes, things were a little different. But tribal life was not nearly as misogynistic on the whole as life became once we started living in farms and grouping together in cities. Life was rubbish for everyone but the top 1%. All men life sucked apart from those few lucky ones at the top. So yes, it was technically a patriarchal society, but life was rubbish for everyone. Now, the last 150 years, men's rights have been ahead. Women's rights have lagged behind. That's a very real thing, and this is why the feminist movement has been fighting for those rights. And I think that fight isn't finished. I think in some ways it is finished, but in other ways it isn't. There are still plenty of ways in which the world is not great for women. There are ways in which the world now is not great for men, and it's not a dick measuring contest. It's literally going, okay, let's fix those things. I think in an ideal world, I don't think this will ever happen, but I really think we have to just drop feminism and we have to drop men's rights activism. We have to think of something like human rights. Because the second you create that division, you go, feminism, people think feminism is just about women. I wonder why. It's in the freaking name. Men's rights activism, it's in the name. If you're saying we're not against men, we hate the patriarchy, it's in the name. We need to start being aware that names are important, that words are important, that if we want the world to be a better place, let's fight for both sides. Let's not just label ourselves feminists or men's rights activists. I don't think that's going to happen. I think people like sides way too much. But yeah, if we want some sort of like serious progress, that's the way that it's going to happen. I don't know how this video is going to be received. I could get a lot of hate from feminists. I could get some people saying, glad you made this video. I could get a lot of, red pill men's rights guys saying, good on you, Damien, for exposing feminists. I don't know. It could be very positive. It could be very negative. I don't expect to make a big change. This is a topic that I'm really passionate about. It ticks me off on a daily basis. I don't have a lot of tolerance to human stupidity. It's a fault of mine, really. I don't accept it with grace that humans can sometimes be illogical because they're also emotional creatures. That's normal. That's human. I'm not good at accepting that, especially when it impacts the lives of so many people. We as a society could get so much more done if we stopped arguing like petty children half the time. And so it's something that I feel very strongly about. If you've liked this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to support me. If you hate this video, here's what I want you to do. I want you to subscribe to me so you can angrily unsubscribe, right? So you can get the satisfaction of losing a subscription. But to do that, you've got to subscribe first. As always, I really hope you've enjoyed today. I hope it's a little bit different from my normal material. As always, I hope to see you in my future videos.